how our foyer display and viewer works, and rather than actually just show you a pre-done screen, I'm just going to show you how easy it is to do it all yourself. So first of all, I'm just going to connect to my colleague Jamie's farm, which has some unusual meters in there like cow house and various other bits and pieces, but for the purposes of this demonstration it should be quite satisfactory. When you open up the program initially, it shows you all of the meters that you've asked to be displayed, and you can zoom in on these meters or zoom out of the meters as required. It shows you the current real-time situation for the day, and the colours represent various time periods. The blue, midnight to 7 o'clock in the morning, a cheap night rate period, then 7 o'clock through to lunchtime, which is represented by the yellow period, and then lunchtime to 4 o'clock, the remaining green period, and then the red period that's starting to be displayed here now represents the peak period, or the more expensive time for electricity. This is just, as I say, just showing the individual graphs for each meter, which each in turn can be shown as text, or can be shown as various types of different graphs in minute by minute, or whatever you want to actually display them in. I won't go through all the options at the moment because I'm trying to keep this presentation reasonably short. So let's just go back to day periods. When you want to show more detail and historical detail, you just double click on a meter graph, and that opens up a new display showing the real-time situation at the moment, but also then it gives you these drop down menus, which then you can choose to display data as a day in half hourly periods, a day as minutes, a week as days, a week in half hour periods, a month as weeks, a month as days, a month as periods, a quarter as months, a quarter as weeks, a quarter as days, or in terms of years, a year as quarters, a year as months, a year as weeks, and a year as days. So what you might want to do is show the current week as days, for example, and there we've got the current week as days. Now going back to our original standard view, then I might like the same meter to be displayed in a different format, so I'll just double click on it to open up another window now, and also show this one perhaps as a year as weeks. Pardon me. If I want to go back a year or several years, if the system's been running, there you can see this year. By using these video buttons, I can move back a year, and again by going back to my standard view now, double clicking on the meter I want to represent, I can also go back in here, show a year as weeks, and then in this particular situation now I've got multiple views. Now I can display all those individual views just by clicking on the top window marker at the just there, or I can split them up into individual windows just by clicking this, which will then break them up into a organized display of some sort. So I'm going to add a few more meters in here. This time I think we'll should we take the main water supply and make that full screen, and then I'll do the current month in terms of days. So there's all the consumptions that have been run through there, and perhaps go back to the standard view and take the water meter again and display it in again another format. So the main water meter, and show that as a year as months perhaps. Okay, clicking on the button now again to display all those individual windows. There we've got all our individual windows displayed, and this one, which is showing our real-time view, I can actually shrink that down and show a few more meters in there, and so it gives you quite a bit of flexibility. Having set up these windows now, if I want to run an individual display, I can just make them full size and then click on this button here, which will cycle on the display, where it will now go from window to window to window, just displaying what you want to show. Let's make that one a bit more realistic now. And here we've got it just scrolling from window to window, as I've actually created in a very short period of time. So you can actually design exactly what you want. Years data, weeks data, months data, real-time data. Let's give you another example, stopping that display there. If I go perhaps to well, I can actually save that display. That's one of the first things. So if I want to save it and then bring that one back up again, going to here, I can actually save that as norms example and save it. So that's permanently recorded in the system now, but also having done that, you can see I've already described and saved some previous examples. As my default example, so it just loads up all those windows automatically for you, and will show you exactly what's going on. At the moment the title display looks a bit large there, so I can actually go in and change that, titles and text, font, and reduce the size of the font to so it looks a bit more reasonable. Do you want to save it? Yes. And then all my fonts on all the pages will update accordingly. And you can see in these images I've actually put some background pictures in to make it a bit more interesting. Some of our customers have actually used photographs of the areas involved, so people know immediately to which area the particular graph refers. Or as you can see here, I've got a cold water tap and a hot water tap, giving an indication of exactly what's going on in that particular area. Again, once those are set up, just clicking on the button then just gives me the capability of automatically going from screen to screen to screen. All these will continue to update and will roll on to the next day's data automatically. Here's another good example where that's a picture of Jamie's farm, and also I've got the weather details. All this is being pulled back from the internet and also displayed. So you can go out on the internet and get interesting bits of information, or perhaps videos, just to make the display a bit more active and interesting, I suppose. So that summarises a brief overview. There's so much more involved in there that you could look at any particular point in time, and I'll be pleased to come along and give a full demonstration for you whenever is convenient. Thanks. I've been asked to show a quick view of some other options that we have in our viewer program. First one might be targets, hence you click on the target there and you can see a minimum target and a maximum target, which can be set by our software. If the graph goes above the maximum set at any point, the whole graph turns red. If it goes below the minimum point set, the whole graph turns blue. Quite a useful sort of feature. Turning that off, then we've got obviously units in terms of kilowatt hours, but we can also express it in terms of money. So there now is the cost per each half hour, and some quite sophisticated tariffs can be entered into the system. Also, we've got a feature there to show it in terms of demands, so that's at a rate of use of energy instead of the normal view, which is kilowatt hours. Any of those other features can also be matched with the other views that we have. So let's take a year in this particular case in terms of weeks, and a new feature that we've just added is to compare with prior data. So if I compare that electricity meter and totals for each individual week and compare those with then the previous year, you can see where the current year is either above or below the previous year. We also have a cumulative view, which allows you to do a direct compare and a bit of a prediction there as well. Perhaps it might be a bit cleverer if we actually show a year as days, and there you can actually see quite clearly how the current year is ahead of the previous year in terms of views. Going back now and say perhaps showing a year as months, which will be the more normal one, again you can see the cumulative view. So for example, if we were showing kilograms of CO2 here, which we can also do, you would be able to know whether you were ahead or behind on your kilograms of CO2 in comparison with last year, which is the usual target. Hope that's been an additional help in viewing the information available.